organization. It's a move. It's a movement. We're talking about unity. We're talking about unity. So we're aimed to taking down the system of race by educating, enlightening, informing, and positively debating with those who have counterviews.
Welcome. It's November 17th, 2020, and what I call Thanksgiving Week Eve, because that's actually what it is. Next week we go into Thanksgiving, which is a great time of year for everybody, especially in this year of COVID, coronavirus 2020. So we're looking for we got a lot of things we can be thankful for, even in the midst of all of that stuff. So we want to welcome to E.R.A.S.E Talk About Unity today. And as always, I'm your host, Carlin Charleston, saying we need to erase race, but I've also got my Erase Race co-host, Richard Jennings. He's coming in via satellite today, as I call it. He's coming in virtually. So we just want to welcome Richard. So Richard, say hey, hello to everybody. Welcome. Hello. Hold on, Richard, we need to go ahead and put your connect. Can you connect there via audio? I think we're missing out on your audio because all they're hearing is silence on my end. So I think we need your audio. So if you could go and reconfigure that while I'm doing the intro here and talking about that, because we got to get Richard in. All right, you're back in now. You're back in. So we're good. All right, so go ahead and continue with what you were saying. Welcome aboard, Richard. Welcome again.
Well, I am excited to be a part of what E.R.A.S.E is doing, especially during this election season. I love technology that we can jump in and do this remote, but I don't like it when it doesn't work. But right now we seem like it's working. So
yeah, let's see. All right, let's get our setup straight here, because now we got your audio, but we didn't have your video. All right. And so
do you have my video now?
Yes, we don't have your videos, and your video is on your computer. Is that what you got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually I can do whatever you want me to do. Hang on.
Well, yeah, however, we need to get you. I'm looking at the screen and I don't see Richard. I see R.E. Jeep. I don't see Richard. So your video is not activated.
Yeah, it says that Zoom is unable to detect a camera, and I know I have a camera on this really fancy.
You missing computer. A camera?
Yeah, I just got to find it. Let me go find it.
Otherwise, we got to go back to your phone, the phone connection, so we can get into these deep topics. All right. Well, you keep searching, and since they've got me, I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about the stuff we're gonna cover, which was the stuff that Richard was gonna cover. So I'm taking over his job. I'm getting his paycheck today. All right. So he keep trying to connect because they got to get Richard in here so we have balance on our set. All right. But hey, what Richard was going to tell you all is that in our discussions today, and I'm going to need Richard to come back in so he can start talking about this stuff. But we're going to cover some election stuff, a lot of stuff happening with the election thing, the results or not results, and the elects and not elects, and the lawsuits and all that stuff that's happening. And plus a lot of other controversy that's coming, emanating from social media and their role in this whole election, and a lot of things like that. So we're going to cover that and get everybody up to speed, and everybody's going to be smart on what's happening with the election status. Then we're going to talk about the pandemic update. The virus is, escalating huge. But what that really means, we got to put that in context once again, and this is part of the unity talk. We got to talk about putting everything in context so we know how to dialogue about these things. So we're going to work on that too. And then at the end of our broadcast, in the final segment, we're really going to talk about the thing that's most important in our country right now, and that is civility. How do we get to civility? How can we start dialoguing with each other like we're humans and we can love and care about each other? So all those things we're going to cover today, and that's the stuff that Richard was going to talk about. But I really wanted Richard in to talk about, the stuff that he's experienced in the last week, what he's come from. Because remember, last week Richard returned from having had COVID. And he gave us an update on that. And so he's got a unique insight as we begin talking about the pandemic stuff, because he's been there and done that. And so we're going to try to get to that as soon as we get Richard's video in, because it's not as good to just have Richard's audio, which we got his audio, but we need his video. So Richard, we might have to go back to what you were doing before, and so cancel out the computer, go back to doing it the other way before, and then I have to walk you through the scripts, and she won't have that. So, and we can make it all work. All right. So.
Okay.
All right, so let's try that because I need video so we can get Richard in. I feel alone without Richard being here. I don't have video. I'm feeling alone. All right, but in the meantime, I've got some stuff that I want to talk about. The first thing is where I was in Florida this past week, and so I've got some graphics I'm going to put on screen, but I'm not going to do them yet. I'll cue you on that, Vince. All right, so coming up, I want to tell you, I was in Florida, had a great time, and I was shocked because I thought that Florida was wide open because I remember their governor having a lot of issues because they were saying that he's simply just doing this to support Trump because he had opened up the state without any restrictions. So my wife and I are driving, and we're driving in Florida. We got in this rental car. We're driving, and we're like, "Hey, let's stop at McDonald's. Wife needs to go use the restroom, whatever." They're closed. We say, "Well, let's go this fast." They're all closed. We're like, "Wait, we thought this place was open, but the places were closed." And so we didn't know what was up, and we had to go to a convenience store type gas station in order to find an open place to use the restroom. So everybody's not open. So, and I think, I'm not sure, I asked some friends, they said it's kind of always been that way, that the governor left it up to the individual franchises, restaurants, businesses to determine if they were going to open up. And so they were not open. And so what happened was then we just basically started having to navigate, because we drove a few hours after we got our rental car and drove a few hours in Florida and had to navigate that, knowing that some places were open, some weren't. So everybody's not like Texas, you know. In Texas, yeah, you stop at any McDonald's, you can go in and order your Big Mac and you can sit down in a socially distanced area and eat it, actually. So that's a little bit different, all right? So that's cool. But hey, I was in Florida because I had a friend and I wanted to give him a shout out this morning on the show. He did 29 years in the Marine Corps. And it'd be great to have Oscar here. Oscar's got a brother who's a retired Marine, so it's big retired Marine fest here because I'm a retired Marine. So he was a retired Marine. He's his name was Curtis Carlin. You know, his last name is the same as my first name. He was out there in Florida, and our family grew up with their family and everything. So we're really cool. And so I wanted to send him a shout out. So I've got a graphic. If you could put that graphic up, graphic 1. It's got a picture there of Curtis, and we had a great time out at this place this weekend in Florida. You can see there, he's a very well decorated Marine. He's there showing there with his wife and everything. So we had a great time out there, and wife and I just enjoyed. We were out there until just yesterday, and we flew back into Texas. And so we're glad to be here. So while we were out there, we celebrate the Marine Corps birthday ball because, of course, 245 years Marine Corps. We talked about that on last week's show, right? You know, following that was Veterans Day. And so it was big military week, but we went down there. We did a cruise where we did the birthday ball ceremony. So everything was just really plush, really nice. And it was a great time. And so I was rushing to get back because I had to be here today to make sure that we could do our talk about unity, and I could make sure I had my boy Richard in. And so now we've got him via video, and so we're ready to go. So Richard, go ahead and give him a shout out saying good morning and everything. Hey, Richard, I got you fine, but they're saying they're not getting you in your mic. They're not getting you. Yeah. Did you? Your Zoom mic. So you're via your phone, right? Are you zooming now via phone? So you need to, I guess, connect your audio via the phone then. Yeah, that's what he did. He connect. Oh, okay. Okay. So how is it? Let me hear you talk. Let's see if technically how this sounds if I volume you up here and see how bad it might. Sorry about this. No, he's saying he's not getting you. He's only getting you through the microphone that I've got. So they're not hearing you, but I am. And I guess we could do this. Let me see. I might have to put you in my mic. Say something. Let's see how terrible this sounds.
Mic check, 1, 2, testing.
How does that? Is that too?
Testing.
Is that a terrible sound? Go ahead, keep talking.
Hello. Hello, 1, 2, 3.
5, 6, 7, 8. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
All right, so he says you're coming through pretty loudly, so I might just have to do this and might have to rig it this way. All right. Wow. This is called, hey, in the Marine Corps, this is what we do. We adapt, we improvise, and we make it happen. Adapt, adjust, and overcome is what we say in the Marine Corps.
We adapt and
we adapt, improvise. We got to adjust.
We can. And so, this election season is just, is something. Hey, well, let's use that word. This election season is something we still don't have, although everybody is telling media, conservative and liberal media is telling the president that he needs to concede, but yet none of the electoral college votes have been cast yet, and so he's going through his legal process like every other president before him did.
All right, hey, so we're going to talk about that later. All right, yeah, you're getting deep here. We're going to talk about that later. We were just giving you the welcome back thing because I want to talk about some other stuff before we get to the meat. You're trying to get to the meat. We got to go to the commercial break before we get to the meat. We're going to do that later. All right, so let me get back. Let me back up a little bit. Back up.
I'm
Rewind.
I'm well. Everything's good. I tested negative for the corona and got on my test. Let everybody know. Still, a lot of people are scared they're just looking at me like I'm an alien. But I got all my tests, got my antibodies. Everything's good. Everything's great. My whole family's doing good, and so ready for Thanksgiving. But no, I'm just glad that this avenue of technology that I get to connect with you guys today.
Great. So, outstanding. So, hey, it's awesome that we got you here. We got you in some form. And so, but one thing I want to do, I'm going to advertise next week's show. We're going to have a great show because guess what, Richard? Dwayne said he'd make it for next week. All right.
Man, that is a dream come true. I love your brother. And we have conversations. And he's on a different planet than I am regarding political stuff and cultural stuff. But hey, man, I love him, and I so enjoy our respectful conversations, and they are.
And that's what's going to make it so interesting next week. I've got a graphic too. If you could post that graphic too there, Vince, and it shows my brother. Because if you know my brother, I said it's going to be a barn burner. Whatever that means. It's going to be a barn burner because my brother and I, just kind of like Richard, we're usually on different ends of the spectrum. And my brother and I have always been like that. And we have some really good dialogue, but we're on different ends of the spectrum on pretty much everything. If we ever unite on anything, we always win because we're so passionate, both of us, in our various directions. And so it'll be interesting to have him on. He's former judge, and I just say my lifelong antagonist. But it's going to be good, though. It's going to be good. So make sure you join us next week. I'm advertising to make sure that everybody understands he'll be on Talk About Unity next week. So we're going to go to a commercial break. And after commercial break, then, Richard, we're going to get to the meat of what we're doing today. So get ready for that. We'll be back with you right after this break. Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
I'm trying not to lose my head.
Hey, this is the Talk About Unity show where I bring the talk.
And I bring the unity.
And together we talk about unity. Unity is what matters.
Come on.
And right now in our country, that's what we've got to do. So we do that here at Talk About Unity on the Edge Radio Network. Be with us every week.
It's going to be awesome. It always is. And I tell you what, the more we seek first to understand, then be understood, we make progress.
And we like to do that. And that's why everybody's on the brink. We love what we do at Edge Radio because everybody's on the edge. We bring them back from the edge and we bring the unity. So we're just glad. Edge Radio Network every Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Talk about unity because here at Edge Radio Network, truth still matters. And we're back here at E.R.A.S.E and talk about unity. Your host, Carlin Charleston, with my co-host there, Richard Jennings, coming in via satellite. And we're ready for our agenda for the day. And the first thing we want to do is we want to start talking about this election, post-election chaos. So, Richard, where are we? Give us some perspective. Where are we?
And there's people that are on both sides of this spectrum and perspective. The bottom line is he's doing what every other president before him has done, that if there is a legal path for him to win the election, he's choosing that, just making sure that this is his statement, that all the legal votes cast and all of the are not counted. So people could so many different ways. Bottom line is that's everybody that. So there's the media all over the place, right and left, liberal, conservative, Republican, that are like, you just need to concede. And there's other people screaming, "Don't let's go down this whole thing." I really hope we figure this out. I don't think we're going to figure it out on this particular election cycle because there's just too much water under the bridge at this point. Like we said last week, or I said last week, that I think to just have a complete redo election, and that's very highly unlikely. That's highly unlikely. I'd see Donald Trump 2024, and that would just bear out. Not everybody, but a lot of people will bear out. But bottom line is, there's a lot of and there's a lot of things that need to be fixed and are for the integrity of our elections, and we're nowhere close to being where everybody can look back at this election and say, he lost the election fair and square. I don't think that will say that, but there, people, whether it's throwing away ballots or in the pandemic as a legitimate, just a vehicle to do all this. It's just a mess, and people's reactions, lawsuits, this whole changing votes. Ask, but theoretically, yeah, it is.
Wait. Well, let me ask you a couple of questions. Hold on, Richard. Let me ask you a couple of questions. First, because I want to get to that Dominion server because I want you to give us some background on what's happening there, what the issue is. But the first question is: have any of his lawsuits or anything, has it changed any election results thus far?
Yeah, well, there's some stuff in Georgia and some other states where I think the thing, like a member that had some election that had the election data on it voted, that was not near enough to they filed that, and it was relating to that the observers, the conservative or Republican observers, were not able to observe. Watching, they were poll watchers, basically,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and they could not. Their job as a, but in other counties, I don't know. It's just an absolute fighting. Republican Donald Trump rallies, and there's people got hurt this last weekend. It is really getting heated, and the reactions of the people is not good. We should be able to come out of an election and go fair and square. My guy lost, or fair and square. My guy or lady won.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're nowhere near that. I would hope to think that we would grow up during this particular election cycle, regardless of who's going to be in that Oval Office.
All right. Yep. Hey, so that's civility talk. We're gonna get to there now. Tell us about Dominion Server. Yeah. So that's good stuff. We'll talk about it. Yeah, because we're gonna talk about civility in our last segment, so we'll cover that. Tell us about this Dominion Server thing you're talking about, because I'm really kind of clueless on that. Tell us what happened. Give me background.
Okay. So this thing has been around for a little while, and there are. I hate to even use the word liberal and conservative, because if things were only if the shoe was on the other foot, everybody would dream about. They were the one that was being disenfranchised.
Mm-hmm.
What the word on the street is, this Dominion Server actually what it does is it changes the votes from one candidate to the other candidate. And I don't know, I don't understand exactly how that goes. That is, but there's many people on the Democratic side that says this is just came out of Donald Trump's ear, right? Like just smoke that came out of his, just made it up. Like he just made this whole Dominion Server up. But there's some people in high level places that have popped up on different conservative news channels and news feeds, and they're like, no, this is serious. This is real. And of course, we're not in those, and we don't know exactly what's true, but this Dominion Server thing is getting some traction and really causing a lot of people to get messed up over this thing. But basically, in a nutshell, the Dominion Server being stated that has the background change votes from one candidate to the other in a way where it's really hard to detect.
So the Dominion Server, where was that a server that was used throughout states, or was that in a particular place or location? What is the Dominion Server? The
server was in Germany, and they, the last feed that I saw was that our government actually has in possession. They have this Dominion Server, right? How much of that is actually true? I don't know. I mean, we're hearing these things, and we don't see it on mainstream media, and so it's really hard to say is it true? Is it not true? But everywhere you look in social media right now, we see conversations about this Dominion Server, which is cause the hair on the back of your neck to stand up. I mean, if somebody can create a computer program to switch votes undetected, I mean, the integrity of not just a presidential election, but every election is in jeopardy. I believe it was in Georgia today that there were so many discrepancies relating to the election and there was another person like in a office in their state that they are going to redo for that particular candidate, but not the presidential election. And so now President Trump is wanting to throw it out and just do a redo for that particular state. And all this started at the same time Dominion Server. So I don't know if Dominion was actually a part of that particular thing, but it's definitely getting a lot of scrutiny and a lot of media attention. We should see a lot about that again today. I just really hope they can put this to bed, because if we don't have confidence in the integrity of our election, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, this is one of those contentious things that could really cause some serious issues in our country.
Yeah,
I don't want to throw all that out. You understand what I'm saying? This could really be a big. We don't get this figured out.
yeah, and we talked about that last week. We talked about the significance of making sure the process is legitimate. Because if the process is not legitimate, then that means our leaders will no longer be legitimate. And if we don't have legitimate leadership, then there'll always be these challenges to that leadership. And we'll end up like one of what we call the banana republics. I mean, we'll be a place where people don't really respect authority, the authority that's in charge, and we'll be a country where you talk about a coup happening every week or something, and that's terrible and that's all because one of the things that we've always had in our republic here was that we had a bona fide, secure process of establishing leadership. And that process, once that becomes under question, then that's terrible for any society. So there's some effort that needs to be expended to legitimize the election so that the people can understand, yes, you in fact do have a legitimate leader and not just someone that was arbitrarily put there through scheming and the things that seem that could be at play here. Because you've got to have a process at least that's good enough in its follow-up that can validate when you do have these things happening. They need to be able to specifically identify these things did happen. If there's any essence that the Dominion server thing was true, they need to flush that out, get it clear, present it to the American people, because the American people, one thing that we need to have is that sense of security and truth. Because otherwise, I mean, we can in this day and age. I noticed that Zuckerberg and Dorsey are once again summoned to go to Washington, D.C. and appear before some Senate committee. And that's the other thing about this, the role social media has played. This thing is very uncomfortable for many Americans. And I'm not just talking about just Republicans because they feel like they've lost. I'm saying a lot of Democrats know that this could come back to haunt them, just as they complained about what happened when they were considering whether or not there was Russian collusion and things like that. These are things that have to get fixed. And I don't think we fixed them because we've been talking about this before when Obama was still president, before 2016 election. We've talked about people hacking into our systems and we're still talking about it. And we don't have really a good fix on solving this problem. So this is something the Americans have got to get solid. Otherwise, we stand in jeopardy of losing our republic. We really do. So give us a quick summary and we're going to go to break after your summary. We're going to go to break right after your summary. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, hold on. Like a horrible zone adult. The media or social media that we're just kind of jockeying over position and who has the most leverage and who has the most power just pushes the other person off the hill, and we never really make any progress as a country or culture. And it's just a dangerous, slippery slope that we're in right now. And we need to act like adults and men and women of character, regardless of what side of the aisle we're on. Because this is we're in a dangerous territory at this point.
Yeah, and I think we'll cover that again too once we get to when we start talking about solutions, when we start talking about civility, because civility, as we all talk about in our third segment, is not just so we can get along. It's because we got to come up with solutions for problems like this. We talked last week about the two gazelles out in the pasture, and I don't know if that part got in the script, but the two gazelles were out in the pasture and they're fighting each other, and the lion is in the background, and you see him coming. Kind of what's happening in America. We're busy fighting each other, and there's a lion coming to take us all down if we're not careful. So we got to be careful about that. All right. So, hey, what we're going to do is, Richard, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and we're going to talk pandemic. All right. We're going to talk pandemic before we get to our civility talk. We're going to talk pandemic. So we'll be back right after this. Talk about unity. Pandemic's happening.
Are you a small business owner concerned about the downturn in the economy? Top business leaders like Mattress Mac and Warren Buffett will tell you that now is the time to promote your business more than ever. People need your services. Your business needs an edge. Learn about special advertising packages for small businesses right here on Edge Radio. Find out more, give us a call at 281-744-0446. That's 281-744-0446. Edge, because truth still matters.
And we're back, and we were so full of dialogue and conversation about the elections, we didn't get to our pandemic. So we're back, and we're going to get to our pandemic now. So, Richard, let's begin talking about the pandemic. I got some graphics that I want to show. I want to display some graphics that I got off of Bloomberg. So if you could put up graphic 3, and it shows the surge in daily cases. And if you look at what's happening there, you can see that we've got spikes, and the spikes that have happened over the last 15, if you look there, 10, 15 days has been phenomenal. It's just amazing that this is the highest number of cases for extended period of time that we've had. If you look, it used to be, less than half of that used to be the highs. If you look back in the middle of the year, July, which if you remember now too, July was a peak time for us. And we were talking about, wow, we got to get this under control. People were saying, because it was after 4th of July. So now we've gone way beyond that. And if you look at that, you can see yesterday we had 165,000 plus cases, and we'll see where we stand today and tomorrow. But boy, so what do you think, Richard? Where are we headed? And given that you've just come out of that stuff, where are we headed? What's going on? What should we be doing?
We're living through this together, and they're seeing that protocols to help people survive it. So the survival rate is going up. The cases are, I think some people like, it's really not that bad. Just a headache, and I lose my appetite and my smell for a little bit, and a little bit of a cough, and so they see their neighbor, their friend, their relative recover quickly, and so all of a sudden they aren't really as cautious as they need to be, and maybe even some organizations are laxing on their requirements to.
So they don't mind getting it, huh? So they don't mind getting it, is what you're saying?
Yeah, because everybody else around them is recovering so quickly. My situation, 2.5 weeks, and I just had a really bad headache and was tired. And the recovery was really good. But, my thing is I took it very serious and had the medical community involved in my situation, was proactive with my meds, and just did everything I was supposed to do. And I don't want anybody to misread that. The headache was bad, but if I had not having pneumonia 6 times in the past, I can't imagine how bad it could have gotten had I not done that. Mm-hmm. And so I think some of this is being misinterpreted as that corona is really not that bad. So for some people, young people, they recover quickly, but for those that are older or that are compromised or have previous issues, it goes bad really fast. We've in our community, we've lost a few people, and just tragic because they were, although older in age, were the picture perfect vision of health, and then now they're not with us anymore. So we really do have to take it serious. And the vaccines are coming, and some people don't want them. Others are like, what, I'm going to survive it. As a country, just the American community, we're going to have to navigate through this and really learn how to prefer each other. hopefully some of these medicines, whether like the president says now, whether it's a vaccine or other medicines and medical protocols, we're going to figure this out. But as you can see with the daily cases, we're nowhere near out of the woods on this thing. I'm glad to see that the deaths are down, meaning that our medical community is figuring some things out. But it doesn't mean you can't get it. And, even if the worst thing is that headache, let me just tell you, Carlin, that is the worst headache I've ever had in my life. For 3 weeks, just this splitting migraine was horrible. But for some, it's a whole lot worse than that.
All right, so let me ask you this, and as I ask you this, I'm going to ask Vince to go up and put up our graphic number 4, because it's a color-coded map of the United States, and it shows, I guess it gives you an idea of how things are getting across the country, because in some of the states where it identifies, it does a 7-day rolling average, and it identifies by color code, and the ones that are darker red, like as you see Louisiana there, is really dark, and so they're really up, and like I said, 7-day rolling average. But in those areas that are light blue or gray, that means they're in a decline over that 7-day period. All right, so you starting to see some blue. Now, last week when I looked at this thing, there was none of the gray and light blue. Now you've actually got some of that in there. And so it seems like some areas are starting to, and like I said, there are some that are better than that, because there's, I think the lighter color, I can't remember which color it was, but it's where it's actually, well, the lighter blue and the lighter gray is decreasing. And then you got yellow, which is just up from 0 to 5% increase. And so if you look at this map, you only see Louisiana that's in a really dire situation. But you got all these other states that are in some state of slight increase to some actually in decrease, a view decrease. And I think that's one of the things we got to continue over time. But I put that map up because I want to ask you this question about what you think about this. So given that our death rates, if you look at those states, and you can click on those, I'm not advertising for Bloomberg, but if you go to Bloomberg, you can actually click on that map and it'll show you exactly the number of deaths and the number of deaths by day, and you can see the increase. And so what you'll find is that when we started this back in March, April timeframe, when we first realized COVID's here, whatever, then the percentages were up, and we were talking about a death rate of 25% in many states, and that was the average across the country. Now that average is down to 2-3%, and in some states 1%. So given that, does it seem like not just a herd immunity kicking in, but do you think it would be more beneficial for us to say, let's take precautions and let's open up and do business? Because if you're talking about a 1% death rate, that is really something that should not really, I think, be shutting down the economy. And what's your view? What do you think about that?
Well, if you look at it just related to, in comparison to the seasonal flu, it's doing better regarding the death rate than seasonal flu. But that doesn't mean, because as we know we don't know about corona. It's the first time we've ever dealt with this. We don't know what the colder temperatures and the increased humidity to do. Hopefully, because we're fighting winter back, the trends are going to head in the right direction. But here's a good example. Louisiana, if you look at those statistics, increase of 71%. Something that directly, I think, attributes to those numbers is Louisiana has been hammered with the hurricane season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like one storm after another. So
That's a good
whether
point.
it's people being displaced out of their homes or directly impacted, that takes a toll on a person's immune system. I mean, if you're not at home in your bed, resting in your house in a comfortable environment, then your lack of sleep, that takes a toll on your body with its inability to rest, and probably is a contributing factor to those numbers going up. But if you look at the surrounding states around Louisiana, Arkansas is up, and of course Oklahoma, but Texas and Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, all those numbers are looking pretty good. The good thing is we've learned how, as a country, how to shift resources, and I can't imagine Texas and the surrounding states not coming to their aid if they don't get this under control rather quickly.
Yeah,
So
good idea. I'd kind of forgotten about the we've been calling this Hurricane Alley lately. You know, that whole Louisiana, and yeah, you're right. So that probably had a a whole lot to do with it. Hey, but the other thing, let's talk about vaccines. What about I feel like we're a natural nation. We're taking away Oscar's time here. This feels like natural nation. What about vaccines, and what do we have coming in the way of vaccines?
wow, I mean, I was watching the guy from I think it's Moderna. That I mean, we're talking rolling this thing out in the next couple of weeks. Um, they with a 96% effective rate, and man, I sure hope that that's the case. Although there's a lot of people that are cautious, and this what is the term of this? The president labeled it Operation Warp Speed. When you're talking about people's lives, talking about all of the bad press that vaccines has gotten in the past, we really need to be careful about warp speeding anything relating to vaccines. Um, not going to get into all the things that people say attributed to this sickness or that sickness, but there's a lot of people that will hang their hat on their last hat on that vaccines cause their children or their other loved ones to be affected lifelong because of vaccines. So hopefully they're really testing those things out. They're working those things out. But what the president touched, he just alluded to it, but he didn't go into detail. And I wish we'd like to get some additional information is what are the other things that they're talking about doing other than medical protocol that is going to be able to combat this virus. But the promising information regarding the vaccines really, really felt good. I hope that they are not cutting any corners on that because people's lives are at stake.
So are you hoping that everybody else gets vaccines so you don't have to? Oh yeah, you got antibodies. You don't need to. You got antibodies because you're already been a victim. So would you recommend people getting vaccines? Because Vice President-elect said that she would not, if it came out during Trump's administration, she would not get a vaccine. She would not take it.
Trump's vaccine is deadly, but
Biden's got a good vaccine, but Trump's no. What do you think?
I think that's a little irresponsible. I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah. When you're sending a message,
it's not even Trump. What is Trump in the lab creating? Can you see that Trump's in the lab?
He's got on his white jacket. His hair's all over his head, like
creating a vaccine. He's not doing it. I don't care who's getting credit for advancements in medicine regarding corona, whether it's a vaccine or a aspirin. But it works. Come on, I don't care who gets credit for it. This whole politicians especially, but everybody just needs to move up, especially during this election cycle. And let's just stop. It's like they don't want the vaccine and all.
They come back for 8-9 minutes.
If it is worse. Let's not do it as politics.
You're right.
That's just wrong. This is wrong.
Good. Good word.
If you later,
Mm-hmm.
do not. They're trying to win some with their constituents or their publics. Act like some things done. Hey, 4 years. Remember
Oh, we had pretty much any teacher, the male, female, they all did back in our day. We're old, Richard. Remember, most people don't understand that, but everybody could. From the principal on down to the teachers, everybody could, yeah. But that's not. Now, my wife's an attorney for a law firm who represents schools, and so that's not politically correct. So we can't say that. All right, we're gonna say it when we come back, Richard. We can't stop. We're gonna, all right, we're gonna talk about it in our last segment because we're gonna run out of time. We're gonna take a break, come back for our last segment on civility. We can cover that under civility. We'll be right back on Talk About Unity. All right. And we're back, and we're in our shortest segment of the show, and it should be our longest because we're going to talk about what everybody needs. Everybody needs a dose of civility. And so, Richard and I, let's begin. Let's talk about the civility. Let's talk about some of the things you were talking about. How do we get to this place of civility that we need to be?
First, we need to hold ourselves accountable. That if we can't say something not season those words, grace, and make conversation for someone to agree, disagree, and move. And don't be afraid of the conversations. Be respectful in those conversations because I'm and the more election cycles go, the less I have confidence that the people in Washington or Austin or any other state capital are actually going to figure this out without the help of the citizens holding them accountable. I believe 2020, 2021 is going to be where government is being held accountable, but also the citizens step up to the plate and say, you know what, I own part of the reason why my life, our community, and our country is the way it is, and that we really need to hold ourselves accountable in the way that we act and react, but then take that next step and not be lazy politically, and whether it's make the drive to Austin, Washington, or pick up the phone, or give an email, and don't last thing, everybody you know, build, try some sense of accountability and support, if at all possible, something to them for their service, but then dig into the reason for your call. Or
all right. So you're saying that, okay, so that's what normal people do. But what about people who have a bully pulpit, such as you were talking about? You were telling me the story about Whoopi Goldberg. What about people in that form? They've got public audiences, and they're creating an atmosphere in our country. So tell us, how do we deal with that? And tell us about Whoopi. What did she do?
The first thing people do is not just take the bait of offense and just run into what really just morphed into a big mess is the cancel culture. Don't just go try to cancel somebody, like calling the sponsors of the show and just, hey, throw her off the air and things like that. No, there needs to be some people that disagree with Whoopi off air, off camera, and begin to have these conversations. Is like, do you know half of the country supports Donald J. Trump, and you're losing half of your audience. And I remember a time when Whoopi, her, man, everything I just liked her as a person, but man, she is just her heart has just gotten so hard over these last few years, and I want to win with everybody. I want to rescue everybody. You know what? Whether it's Donald's out now, or he comes back 4 years later, or he never steps into politics again, there will be somebody else that will irritate you. And as a country, we need to realize we can't just give all this to as a country, the people we buy for get involved and steer the policy in the direction of our country as citizens because we're engaged with those politicians.
All right, let me ask you about this one. I've got Vince, if you could go ahead, that graphic 5, put up that graphic 5. It's an example, I think, of, I don't know if you call this politically correctness or incivility or what, but it's an article about a Virginia professor who went out on Facebook and he made this statement to people who voted for Biden. And he said, this is what he said in quote, he said, if you were ignorant, anti-American and anti-Christian enough to vote for Biden, I really don't want to be your social friend on social media. I wouldn't hang out with you in real life. I don't want to hang out with you virtually either. You have corrupted the election. You have corrupted our youth. You have corrupted our country. I have standards and you don't meet them. Please remove yourself. Now, this guy's at the school, Virginia Wesleyan University, I think maybe a Christian school. What do you think about that? Is that incivility? What is that about?
That is a misguided soul that just chose to forego every ability to speak into somebody else's life. If only people that you speak into their life is people that are just like you, that's a pretty narrow audience.
Mm-hmm.
Be trying to love and let influence us. That's what relationship is. There's this back and growing together.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I grow many times. I grow more when I spend time with people that think it differently, act differently than I do, than when I hang out with people that are just like me. It doesn't mean all of a sudden that I buy into it. It just sometimes it reinforces my position because it's not. I didn't learn what I want to do. I learned what I don't want to do. Right?
That's great.
And so it's so important not to live in a cancel culture relationally that, well, you voted for that guy, well, you're out of my life. I've had a lot of people on social media because, and I don't really name parties or candidates from my pulpit or from my position, but every once in a while I'll talk about a policy issue or I'll talk about a position, and it is definitely from that particular party's perspective, and people are like, well, I know who you're for. I know who you're for, and they'll just slam the door on me right there. And what's amazing is there will be, whether it's when I was the chairman of the board chamber or just involved in city council issues that was connected. You're a pastor. You're a moral leader in our town. And my whole thing is, how is it affecting really benefit? Just forget about how affect people in a negative way. That doesn't mean how they're being affected is because they're wrong or bad or anything like that. But if we see people being disenfranchised or hurt, and there's a way that we can help them, and we don't necessarily win or lose, but we can help people. Why do we want to help people? And we really need to increase this conversation with each other. But I want to say it again real quick. We really need to get better about not being lazy politically and culturally and as a community. And we really need to grow together and stop lobbing these bombs across social media and canceling each other out because.
All right, Richard, time for your sermon's up, man. Your sermon's up. Good.
We can learn from each other.
Good. Really good stuff. All right. And so good input. And really, we'll have more time next week to talk more about civility because we need that every week. All right. So we're going to have a segment about that every week. Especially next week. Oh, we got Dwayne on. All right. So, hey, so glad to have you on Talk About Unity. I want to close with Carlin's 3 points of civility. Let's talk it out. Let's walk it out. And let's love without limits. All right. That's our show here today on Talk About Unity. We're out.